well?
Yes, we
Okay.
record. I don't know if Kirsten had keyed you in. I think there's some sort of like AI minute taking device. I don't know if that's automatic or okay. Your expression tells me it's not automatic.
I've
So
never
def
used that, but I can make minutes myself. That's no problem.
okay, that also works. The real human minutes are most welcome. But yeah, I think we can certainly record, and then if we need to go back to look at anything that we can do that. All right, so we'll come to order. We're going to start with adopting our July minutes. I don't know if folks had a chance to look at those, but if you want to take any time to do so, go ahead, and then we'll entertain a motion to adopt those minutes, which I think primarily just sort of in process or set in motion our process for posting the permanent ombuds job description and starting that application period.
I'm gonna move that we accept the minutes.
Okay, any second? So I think Marisol second. Any discussion? Certainly, if you need a chance to look, let us know. But otherwise, any discussion of the minutes? All right. So all in favor of adopting the July 22nd, 2024 minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, those are adopted. So we'll move on. We had as an agenda item introducing our interim ombuds, and as you can see, Attorney Ward is with us, albeit sort of in his a member of the public capacity. So the job does not actually begin his post as interim ombuds until September 23rd. And as a attorney currently in practice, he still has matters pending, including some against DOC. So there's a little bit of a delicacy in terms of keeping, lines between current job and future job. But we certainly welcome him. We're excited about the appointment. I appreciate you making the time to join us, even if you're not in a position to really kind of dig in yet. Our next meeting is September 23rd, so hopefully we'll be able to hear from Attorney Ward then, and in his actual appointed capacity as interim ombuds. In the meantime, obviously, folks can see him here. The email is, I think, dward@attorneyward.com. I think we all got it, so feel free to reach out and introduce yourselves. And perhaps between now and the 23rd, we might have some opportunities to discuss our sort of goals for, the interim position, which I think is going to be incredibly important, in terms of standing this office up. Both the advisory committee and Attorney Ward working together in that capacity. So I think, unless other folks have things to say, we can probably move on to an update on the permanent position, which we will hopefully be posting this week. I sent around, as I was mentioning before the meeting started, the Department of Administrative Services sort of mock-up or of our job description. So again, we all voted on a description at our last meeting. As you guys might recall from last year, DASN has to kind of put it in, proper format and say good things about Connecticut and the benefits that we offer state employees and these sort of things. So the result of that is now what you should all have in your inboxes. We can discuss that now. We can take some time if folks haven't had enough time to look at it, to review and discuss over email. The only thing I wanted to flag, which we were just discussing before the meeting started, is potentially extending the sort of soft deadline for applications, which is currently September 15th, which is about 3 weeks away. Even though that's not a hard deadline, it strikes me that it could be a deterrent for folks who haven't gotten applications in at that point. And maybe some additional time would be useful. So I'd be in favor at least of extending that through the end of the month to say September 30th. I think there could be a case to even extend it beyond that since we're doing a rolling sort of application process. But in my view, at least to the 30th would be useful. And then, hopefully we'll have enough time to get a number of applications, including, we hope, from the interim ombuds, and we can consider those during the month of October and hopefully get our public hearing obligation done in November, and give the governor, several weeks to make an appointment in November and December to have somebody in place in January. I don't know that we need to vote on that, but I think I'd just first open it up for discussion, and if everybody's in agreement on that, then maybe we can.
Peg, I had a question. So at some point we will need to set a deadline, right? When we start actually interviewing people, correct? And then, but I favor sort of the September 30th. You're right, because I don't think we want to, I don't know if there's a magic number of applications. We just want to make sure we have enough applications to get the right person in the job. And I don't know exactly what that looks like, but September 30th does feel more reasonable as the soft deadline. But it's true. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. At some point when we start interviewing people, will we still be accepting applications after that point, or will it kind of be closed at that point?
It's up to us. I don't think, strictly speaking, there has to be a closing point. I think what we're trying, we could do that. That's totally fine, and just give people the kind of certainty that, after a certain date, we're not considering any additional applications. Alternatively, we cannot do that, and then it's up to us whether to consider any applications that come, after the sort of soft deadline. I don't actually, to be honest, Ben, and I assume you don't know, I don't recall making a decision along those lines. And so, when I saw this posting and it said encouraged to apply by, I gather we must have discussed that, but I don't remember having a sort of discussion as should this be a hard deadline or a soft deadline? But in any event, I do think that we need to have, I think, through September, and then we can, whether that's a hard deadline, September 30th, or soft, I don't have a strong view on.
So I'm going to say that we should have a hard deadline of September 30th for multiple reasons. One, being that this is not our first time that we've done this. There has been an awareness about this position since last year, and it has been circulated amongst the community and throughout the state and other locations. So I think keeping it at September 30th would be ideal to keep it at a hard and fast. And I also wanted to, the only reason I also agree with the September 30th date is the fact that we waited so long to actually get it up on the website live since last week, when we were looking to get it done earlier in the month of August in order to have a little more time. And I think the reason that we should do September 30th, but no further, is the fact that I think there is a slight disagreement with the position being filled with the permanent ombuds taking office on January 25th, because I think the new ombuds, whoever it will be, whether or not it's Attorney Ward, or, if it stays Attorney Ward or it's someone new, they have to go through the confirmation process, because they will have to go through the legislative session, and through that, they are going to have to go through that and get confirmed. So Attorney Ward would stay in the position until either he or new ombuds would get confirmed.
What's the January 25th? What is it?
You mentioned January 25th of them taking office. I don't think they would take office until they've been confirmed by the legislative session by both houses.
I think I meant January 2025, the year. Yeah, I don't have a particular date in mind.
I don't think they would take. I think what my concern is that even if we make the recommendations, he does what he does, but they would still have to go through the same process that our earlier nominee went through beforehand. And I think it could go like what we saw this past session, it could go into May. So I think trying to keep a stringent deadline and at least being able to try to get candidates down and, some type of consistency in office would be something that we should strive for.
Okay, yeah, I don't see the connection between delays that could happen after our recommendation is made and, when we should cut off applications to make our recommendation. That said, I don't really have a problem with a hard deadline. And as long as we're all doing our part to publicize and make folks aware about this opening, it does seem like, a full month is probably enough. Mel, I think I saw a hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, I think what we're probably striving for is ensuring that Governor Lamont makes his nomination by the beginning of legislative session. And so working backwards from January, I think we want our recommendations in probably by October, given that the holidays would be coming up and like all of the stuff that happens. Like, we don't want to be held responsible for any delay. And if we package our stuff up pretty quickly, I think it puts it in the executive branch to then follow through for, as legislators are coming back into session, and ideally the nominations committee is meeting and this can get, fairly fast tracked quickly.
Okay, are folks in general agreement about a hard deadline then at September 30th?
I'm not advocating any particular date. I do think striving for October, right? Like, if we can wrap our portion up by the end of October, if that means applications by a certain date, I'm fine with rolling period applications, but us moving a process and then making a decision at least by the end of October feels what sets us up for success.
I guess I like that idea in the ideal. I just worry that what happens when we get to September 30th and we don't have the numbers, or we go through the whole process and we don't have the right people to name. I mean, kind of like what happened last year. We did have a lot of discussion about sort of the three people we eventually nominated, and I think I will speak for myself. I think we weren't all super happy with the third choice that we put in, and I don't want to be put in that position again if we don't have three quality people to put forward. And I don't know exactly how that affects the deadlines, but I'm just aware of that possibility.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking as well, like we did extend last time, and had to take a vote to kind of push out what had been a hard deadline. So that was kind of again, I don't recall making a decision to make the soft deadline, but I feel like that was probably the thinking there. But I don't think it's that significant as long as we do our part to, really get the word out. Because I do feel like last time we didn't do enough, and we had relatively few applications. Then we extended, and quite a few rolled in, and we were able at least to get our selections based on that final number. But I don't, there weren't so many at the beginning of the period. Go ahead, Daryl.
Yeah, I like what Mel said. I'll definitely like make sure that we, get it done, get what we need to get done, so there is no excuse. And I also want to know if there's whoever, like our chairs, are you in communication with the governor's office so we can let them know that, we're going to do what we need to do so they can get, so there's no lag on their end. I mean, I worked in this business for a minute. And I know that you can't tell the governor what to do, but also I think, making sure that they're aware of that we're going to do our due diligence. I always go back to time. Time is something that you can't replace, right?
Mhm.
So my time is valuable just like everybody else's. And I don't want to, we did go through something before and everything didn't happen the way we want. So I'm going to try to commit to as much time as I can to do this. But I want to make sure that, we're, that this is taken seriously. I appreciate, Attorney Ward being here today, as well as, his commitment to whatever he's going to offer in the interim position and, helping us out in that respect. But I want to make sure that, because there are people that are sitting in cells waiting, for this to happen, and so just want to make sure that we're all on board that we're going to get this done this time. And however that looks. So if we set a hard and fast, letting everyone know in our communities and whoever wants to apply for this position, it's over. September 30th is the hard deadline. So either you get it in or you didn't want it. And then we move forward doing what we got to do for interviews, and then we get it on the
Mhm.
government desk. I don't know when the legislative sessions and all that happen, but if we know, we got enough people on this call who are very well versed in that and know when those dates and times happen. We want to make sure that we get everything across the board on the desks who get to whoever people that needs it out. So when it's time to make a decision, that decision is made, and our job, we can move forward and getting this done. So, I think that we should really be serious and do our due diligence on trying to get that part done, like our part. So, and then I don't know if any once again, I'll say, I don't know if the communications with the governor's office, how that plays out, but if we can talk to them about like, so if we get this to you by then, what does it look like? And, if we could get our 3 people to you, if it's 3 people or whatever, to you by then, can we have a realistic thought that somebody will be named soon, like whatever vetting process and all that, so they can prepare to vet someone too. Like letting them know that we are going to do what we need to do, so they should be setting up just along with us, or we should be keeping them up to date. Like we got our 3, so they should be coming to your desk at this particular time. So they should be setting up whatever vetting process. If there's a hearing they need to do, just making sure we're all on the same page. So it
May
doesn't.
I,
Go ahead, Mary.
Derek actually brings about a valid point, because wasn't it like with our earlier time frame that when we made our recommendation, it was within 30 days of our recommendation, he had to have a response by?
Yeah, that will be the same. So, again, I don't know if Mel or Scott or anybody knows. I know it's like February. Is that?
They come in January this upcoming year, early
Sorry,
January.
January. Right. So if the legislature's in session, he's got 30 days. He makes his appointment. The nominations committee confirms or or not, but theoretically confirms. If the legislature is not in session, then his appointment of his choice of our 3 becomes the acting ombuds, and then will be subject to that vote when the legislature returns to session. So it is not the case that it has to wait. The nomination has to wait, but the person would have to undergo that confirmation when the legislature's back in session. Go ahead, Daryl.
Mel, is it a long session or a short session, or does that even matter?
Long session. And I mean, they always have the option of fast tracking a nomination,
Okay.
That's a bit out of our hands. I think what matters is that there's consensus, right? You want to know early in the session that everyone's feeling pretty good about the pick, and that allows the acting interim and whoever's then appointed, all that stuff. It clarifies the whole process.
All right. Thanks.
All right. I mean, I guess, should we go for the 30th? Like, I'm honestly, like, if the legislature's not in session till January anyway, the governor has 30 days. It seems like as long as he gets the list by, early December, then there's no delay. Although if we give it to him earlier, he could have, an acting person, without, even if the legislature's not in session. So I guess, we should probably just say, let's put the feet on the gas and try to move things along regardless of, legislative session. So I'm fine with the September 30th. Again, I just, everyone, including me, like really try to get the word out, because I do think the initial 30 days of our last application period didn't, turn in that many applications. Some good ones, certainly, but, there were folks who applied later, and we want to, make sure to spread the word broadly as soon as possible. So I'll go ahead and make the motion to kind of make that adjustment. So it will be, instead of September 15th, we'll make a deadline of September 30th. And with that change, we would, instruct DAS to move forward with posting the job description that they've circulated to us. Any second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, I'll shoot that to Marisol again, and all in favor. Daryl, did you, well, sorry, any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, seeing none, that will pass, and we'll let DAS know. So Daryl, go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick question in reference to people that have applied before that we've interviewed. We're going to interview the same, like if people submit those applications again and they get selected, we're going to interview people. Like, I don't want anybody to be discouraged that because they didn't make it the first time that they can't resubmit. I want to make sure that those individuals that for whatever reason they didn't make the cut the last time, that they can still resubmit. And, we're saying it here, we'll say it in other spaces, that if you submitted your application last time and you didn't make the cut, we encourage you to resubmit again.
That's fine. I mean, I definitely think the more the better. Obviously, folks who applied before, have shown that sort of initiative, right? So these are folks who should be encouraged to apply again. And I think we should caution that we're not like reconsidering we're not like going back to a pool of applicants from last time. So folks should resubmit them, and if they want to update them, they should update them, and not expect us to look at them anew, to look at the former applications anew. But otherwise, yeah, I totally agree with you, Daryl.
Cool. Marisol and Todd, have the dynamics changed on who could submit it? Correct me if I'm wrong, but previously it was only Connecticut state residents. Does it go beyond that? And before I finish, thank you, Attorney Ward, for being on this call. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I mean, that again is statutory and that hasn't changed. So this posting, like the previous one, specifically says you don't need to be a resident to apply, but you do need to be a resident to interview. And it's it's hard to imagine someone taking the shot and, moving before an interview without any guarantee. So I don't think that's a great solution. But yeah, the statute requires applicants to be a resident at the time of their interview. And we're sort of stuck with that. That said, we are trying to say, don't, if there's somebody out of state who'd be perfect for this and is willing to move, we'd love to see that application. Just we can't, guarantee anything. You do have to sort of establish residency based on the statute before we can have an interview.
Just to be clear, does the candidate have to be an established resident before they apply, or committed to establish residency during the course of the interview process?
The latter. So they don't, and we confirmed this with DAS last time, that they do not have to be a resident to apply. But you do have to be a resident at the time of your interview. So conceivably, we could get a great application and say, hey, we really encourage you to establish residency so we could have this interview. Again, I don't know if I'd pick up and move my whole family on that sort of assurance. But yeah, you do not have to be a resident to apply. And so to the extent folks know of people outside the state who might be interested in, I do really hope you'll encourage them to apply, but we can't really, give them much assurance unless they come to Connecticut,
You said that very diplomatically.
It's a funny, part of the statute, and unfortunately, we're still stuck with that. All right, so we'll make that change, and then I guess while we're on the subject, do we want to again appoint a sort of subcommittee to do the lion's share of sifting through applications, or do folks, all want to undertake that responsibility? I think last time we felt we'd probably be able to move a little more quickly if there was a subcommittee doing the review, kind of making a summary to recommend to the full committee about who we should interview. And I'm fine with doing that again, fine with being on that subcommittee, but I want to kind of open that up to discussion based on how last year went. Do we want to do the same process here or something different?
I would love for us to do something different.
Okay,
Um,
like,
My thought would be if we could actually meet in person once all applications have come in and review them and make a decision at that point. So we're all in the same room. We can all agree on date and time and whittle this down to candidates that we can all agree. We're all in the same room. We can all agree. Why not? Why? Because we had the same difficulty last time and look where we ended up. So I think if we can do that, that'd be great, especially given the timeline, because we know Thanksgiving is not too far. Holidays, people are going back to school. So I understand people have commitments. So I think if we can just knuckle down and try to go through this, I think we can all agree that if we can, set, these are the people, these are the interviews, and then there's no, hopefully, recriminations or problems like we had the last time.
Marisol, maybe I'm forgetting, but I don't remember there being. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I don't remember there being like a holdup. That wasn't the part of the process where there was a problem. Like we interviewed, I think 8 people. The people who interviewed can remind me. It's not like number 9. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think like number 9 was like a big miss that we whiffed on. It was more sort of the process after, just the applicants we got and the process after that. I mean, I'm not saying against sort of what you're proposing. I think that's a great idea to sort of build consensus that we all have investment in the process. We've all read it, and we just acknowledging like I just may be misremembering. I don't think the problem the process broke down at that stage.
I think consistency would be great all across the board, though.
I mean, frankly, the harder part about not the reviewing the applications is the interviews, because the interviews we made the understanding was that the same people had to interview all the people with all the same questions, and that is just going to be a much heavier lift to get those whoever number of people to do that. Then, for example, what you're suggesting, actually, that's feasible, but like actually having all of us can't interview everyone. I just to be explicit.
Great.
yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I agree with your recollection, Ben, but also Marisol, like it does seem to me probably doable to like, except for one thing is that we have a rolling process, but aside from that, we could say, all right, this is all closed on September 30th. We should all be reviewing these applications as they come in on October X or whatever, a few days after that date, let's meet together. It can be in person, certainly, or, if folks can't make it, it can be over Zoom and go through these as long as everybody has already written. I don't want to be reading applications in a meeting, but if everybody's done that, sorry, I see Daryl's sharing something exciting with us here.
Daryl,
Daryl's
I thought you were going to draw a diagram, Daryl, of what we could.
I got these new features, right? And they just like, I'm like,
Daryl.
shiny keys. That looks fun. I'm sorry. I didn't know you guys could see that. I better stop because I don't want to share.
Don't write anything about us. Yeah.
I think Daryl, if you want to talk, you should just talk, and don't worry about it.
I know. I'm gonna. Now I know I can get your guys' attention if I need it. So if you see stuff, I'm just gonna post it. All right.
Is anybody opposed to what Marisol suggested, at least for the review? I tend to agree that we need a subcommittee for interviews, but we could address that at our next meeting, which would be before the close of applications. So just if anyone, thinks we need a subcommittee just to review the applications, speak up. But I think otherwise we could all do it and agree on a time to discuss them together.
Just a point of clarification. So obviously this is probably the best attendance we've had at one of these meetings for a while. And I assume that we'd have a similar sort of rules about if we have 6 members, we can do that process. I just want to acknowledge, like, I think there's still one open position, right? As well as, are there 2 open positions? I know there's at least one open position.
I believe there's only one person who has resigned from the committee. Which was John Sapoli, and there's been no nomination to fill his role. John Bowen is another person who hasn't come to many meetings, but I don't believe he resigned from the committee. And
all right, just to get myself oriented we don't need to meet to screen applicants, right? That's
I don't think we need a formal meeting. I don't think we need
Yeah,
quorum,
yeah.
but I think it's great if we, as many as possible, can get together for that. Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
All right, so let's do that again, assuming no one disagrees. So we can, we'll see what comes in. We'll set a time like the week after, sometime during the week after the cutoff, and meet together to go through them, and then we can decide on appointing subcommittee for the actual interviews after that.
And just to clarify again, that would be a closed meeting, right? Like it would be sort of whoever
Yeah, and it could be
yeah, got it.
in person, or it wouldn't be a public meeting of the committee. All right. I don't know that we need a vote on that, but it seemed like we had sort of.
We're all here. Make it official.
You're gonna make it. All right. I'll second it. All in favor of that suggestion? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
I think no. Okay, great. So that's the
Is
main
there a
business.
room for discussion, Todd? I'm sorry.
Yeah, of course. Sorry, Scott. Go ahead.
So I really think that in the interest of getting the right people in the room to have this discussion, that you really need a person with lived experience. You need someone as a healthcare practitioner. Sorry, Dr. Kapoor. And
I'm a doctor too. I think just so
sorry,
Kaisha,
Dr. Howell.
Kaisha also served that role.
Sorry, sir. I apologize.
No worries. We have 3 healthcare professionals.
I just love Dr. Kapoor. I can't help it. I'm sorry, but and then you may need some other folks with as a practitioner in the field. I'm not volunteering. I'm there if you need me, but I think it would be a wise choice to have the right people.
I think,
getting involved in that decision.
Well, I think that's definitely right for the interviews, and we did do that, Scott, as you know. Like we tried to have that representation for the subcommittee last time, which reviewed applications as well. I think having the broader committee be more engaged in the initial review is fine. Obviously, it by definition includes that representation, right? Because it's an even broader group. But I would agree with you for establishing a subcommittee to conduct the interviews. It would be important to have that sort of representation, lived experience, healthcare, legal, corrections, or whatever, some combination of those, similar to what we did before. But I think, as I understood it, what we were just suggesting was really just all reviewing the initial applications, all getting together in a private meeting to discuss who should be interviewed, and then selecting a subcommittee that is representative along those axes to conduct the interviews. Okay, so that's kind of the main business. But if there's any subcommittee updates or anything, we can address those, and then I don't know if Kat's there yet. After that, we can. I don't know if there's members of the public who want to speak, but we'll kind of open the floor. So any subcommittee reports? Okay, no worries. So Kat, are there any folks on the Zoom who are like raising their hand or wish to speak?
I don't see anybody raising their hand. There are a few people in the room who are not on the committee, so I don't know if any of them would like to raise their hand. I'm happy to unmute you and you can chat with us or whatever, but I don't have anyone.
Yeah, so if you're a member of the public not on the committee but wish to speak, raise your hand or do some kind of indication of that. There's no pressure, no obligation to do so, but we just want to have the floor open for anyone who'd like it. Okay,
so someone named Barbara Fair just got in the waiting room and she made comments last time, so she might.
Yeah, let's give her a chance to join.
She's in.
Hi, Barbara. We were just opening up the floor and you happened to join at that moment. So if I can give you a rundown of what we've gone through, but I don't know if you had anything to say. This is the kind of public comment period of the meeting.
I was watching the whole
Okay, great.
entire time. I just had to, hold on a minute. I was watching, hold on 1 second. I was holding the. I was watching the whole entire time. Okay. I just had to, hold on a minute. I was watching, hold on 1 second. I was holding the. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes,
You're on a massive loop over there, Barbara.
I think you fixed it though. I think you're good now.
I thought I did, but
Yeah, it sounds
I
okay to
did?
me at least.
You're on a massive loop.
Oh, now I hear Mel. All right, so there is one
Your
more thing.
YouTube, yeah,
we
your
muted,
YouTube might
perhaps.
still be
let
okay.
me go out and come back.
Okay,
I don't think it's the meeting. I think you just need to turn off the sound on YouTube or wherever you were watching.
yeah, if you're on. two
Yeah, that's
different
why I
things-
tried to get out of that. I thought I had got out of that, but maybe I hadn't.
It sounds like you did.
Yeah,
now.
you might have. Sounds okay now.
Okay, join the meeting.
Take a shot anyway.
I know this is just like so confusing. I'm sorry. Because I watch you on YouTube, and then I have to go to the other page to get able to click onto the link to get in. It's just too much. So here I am. So I just want to say thank you for the meeting tonight. I want to first agree with Daryl, first of all. And I think Marisol said the same thing. I agree that there should be a hard deadline. I agree with Daryl. If people wanted this job and they don't get the application in by the deadline, then obviously it wasn't that important to them. This is not new. This has been going on for years now. So people are aware. So anyone who really wants this job will definitely have their application in on time. I wanted to make sure that there's a way that all these applications are being seen by the committee, because what I've heard from some people in the since this whole process is that, well, I sent my application in, so I don't know if maybe they just weren't chosen, but there were several people said that they sent their application and they never heard anything. So I'm hoping that there's a way to make sure that every application that comes through this committee. I finally, no, well, two things. I hope that I'm going to feel the urgency that I didn't feel before in getting this work done. We need to be urgent about getting this position done. I've seen too much of people not showing up and we couldn't get any work done. And I'm hoping that's not going to happen this time. The statute said the governor had 30 days. He went beyond his 30 days. No one said anything. So I'm hoping this committee is going to be more, I don't know, bold and courageous, or whatever you have to be, to make sure that the guidelines for this process are followed. And finally, hopefully, the governor will respect what the committee has to say, and we won't have to go through that whole shenanigans again. And that's it for me for tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you as always, Barb. Yeah, for sure. All applications in the last round and this round were and will be seen by the full committee. I don't know if you must probably heard we're also reviewing as a committee this time rather than appointing a subcommittee at least for that review period. So please do, if you as you heard us discussing with Daryl, if there are individuals that said, hey, I applied last time, I didn't hear anything, tell them, hey, do it again, you know, give it another shot. We're not going to be going back to that earlier branch of applications, but those same people have the same shot as everybody else again in this next round. So please spread that word, and we appreciate you doing so.
And can I just ask, I know I said that was it. I just need to have an easier way to get into these meetings, because this was very difficult for me. It wasn't on the CGA website. I had Marisol send me a link, and then I had to click onto that link to get one link to get into the meeting to watch it, and then another link to get in to speak. It's just too much. I think the public who really want to be engaged are not going to go through all of that. So we can just find an easier way.
We're working on it. So we have some transition. We were discussing this, I think, at the beginning, before we kind of started the meeting. So, like, Kat, do you have a recommendation for that, or should we discuss it later? As we were saying, we're happy to have anyone join the Zoom and then, speak up during the public comment period. It sounds like at least, Barb was on the YouTube and then had to transition
Right.
over. Is there an easier way to do it, or I heard different things about whether the Zoom link was on the website today, so.
Well, my thought is like, I mean, if she's watching it on YouTube or here, I don't think it matters. I think that if you allow the public to be in from the beginning on the Zoom, if
Right.
they know they're going to speak, or maybe they want to speak, as long as it's understood that, you have to be muted until the comment period is opened.
Mhm.
I think as the administrator who is on the call, I would be easily mute, remove, whatever, people who don't respect that.
Mhm.
So, I mean, in my opinion, if it's public anyway, I don't see a difference.
Right.
Yeah, I
And
think
that's what
that's
I'm accustomed to.
sorry, I think that's our preference, so that folks don't have to jump from one to another. They can be on the Zoom from the outset with, recognizing that the public comment will come at a certain period. And, obviously we don't necessarily want heckling or whatever, but I don't think we're going to have a problem. We haven't had that problem in the past. So, starting with the next meeting, if we can just kind of make that, I don't know, more obvious on the website, maybe,
Mhm.
click the Zoom link to join the meeting from the public.
I'd have
I
to
don't want to
talk.
put you on the spot. As
We'll
as
figure it
long
out.
as you know,
Yeah,
yeah,
we can figure it out. I mean, as
yeah,
long
that's
as
our
we have-
stance. I think we're happy with that, or comfortable with that. So if we can work to get that, in place for the next meeting, that would be great.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other comments from members or members of the committee or the public before we adjourn?
I just got a
But-
quick question, two things. Something that Barbara brought up, and it's always a pleasure to see you, Barb. The question I had is normally when somebody didn't get selected or whatever, like in any other job, if you didn't get selected, you get a letter or something. I thought that was what we were doing. Is that not something that happens to people? Like if we went in a different direction, or thank you for submitting your application. Is that pretty much the standard procedure? Or I thought
I
that
believe we did that last time. I recall seeing a draft of a letter that was meant to go out to all applicants, including, and a specific letter for those who were not selected for interviews. It sounds from what, like you said, as you're suggesting, I guess, Daryl, from what Barbara said, maybe there were people who didn't get that,
Right.
but certainly
I
they
am
meant
in the
to,
meeting.
yeah.
The door is open.
Right. So I'm hoping that, if that's not something that we do, I thought that's what we did, but we'll make sure that we
Ring the
do.
number. Ring the number.
I
got
think,
the phone
so
right next
people
to me.
are like waiting and waiting and waiting and only to find out that they get selected. I think that's
Right.
disrespectful. So we should be on top of that. The other thing is that I thought I could see some people here that are not part of the thing, and it's an open door, Cat, if I could call you Cat.
Absolutely.
That people could just sign into this meeting, and seems like that's normal. That's the normal procedure. So I don't know about the YouTube sign in. I don't know, I wish I was that tech savvy, but I'm not. I'm open to my shortcomings. So they could just come to this meeting, right? And then just, and pretty much people have been pretty respectful to be muted until the public comment section. So that they could just, Barb and other people could just don't even go to YouTube, just come directly here when they know that. And we're making sure that, I know we have some transition, but just making sure, because this is a situation that people talk about. We get stopped all the time in the community. Hey, what's going on? So we're making sure that we're posting it. I know we have some transition, but we make sure that we're posting it in places that people could see it. And, and I'll actually start posting it on my page as well, just so people know that they can join it, because a lot of people don't even know that you can comment, especially impacted people, whether they want the job or not, but maybe they want to talk about their experience of being incarcerated. Because I know I've had some of those conversations. I'm like, well, you should come to the meeting. They didn't even know that the meetings exist. So, and that could be on me or us, the community, what have you. But just making sure that people's voices are heard, so us as a committee can understand that there are impacted people that are watching, and hoping that, things, we do our due diligence in making sure that this position gets filled by somebody that's going to do the work.
Just to kind of touch in a little bit on what Daryl was talking about. So I went back in our emails, and the example of the letter was only to not applicants, but those who were selected for interviews but weren't going on for the recommendation. That was the actual letter that went out.
I think there were two sets of letters, at least as I recall, and we can kind of search through. But in any event, certainly this round, we want to make sure each applicant gets that sort of outreach, that acknowledging we've received it, and letting them know if they're going forward. Go ahead, Mel.
Just before we part, wanted to also acknowledge Attorney Ward, who's obviously on this call, starts in September. I mean, I think a pretty distinct privilege that we have to have you serving as interim, someone who's got a pretty good track record on impact litigation and an incredible track record at lobbying at the legislature on behalf of not just your clients, but the very communities impacted by the drug war. And so we're in a pretty, despite the rocky road that we've been on, we're in a pretty lucky position to have someone like Attorney Ward serving as interim as we think about a permanent placement. And looking forward to working with you in September, Attorney Ward, when it's official.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining. It's a thumbs up from Scott, not a hand. But if you do have anything to say, jump in. Getting confused by all these yellow appendages. Yeah, anything else? If not, we can take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
All right, thank you, Mel. Any second?
Second.
Ben his second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you all. I do appreciate, as Ben pointed out, record attendance for our committee tonight. So thank you all for making the time, particularly on a postponed meeting. And we will, I'll copy you all on email to DAS with our change, and hopefully we'll get that live this week and go from there. Thank you all. Good night.
Good night, everybody.